Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. This is Nimmo Bay Resort. My name is Jenny Yevchuk, and I work in reservations. I also help with sales and a few other things. So Nimmo Bay is an all-inclusive wilderness resort. We are seasonally operating from May through till the end of October, and we offer 3-, 4-, and 7-day trips, with Monday and Thursday being the adventure days. So we are family-owned and operated. We have Craig and Deborah Murray here in the middle. They started the resort over 35 years ago, and they at the time had 2 small kids. They had Fraser to this side and Clifton down here, and they basically were spending a lot of time away from their home, and they wanted to do something that would bring their family together. So they had basically no money and not much to call their own, but they did manage to find a float home and dragged it into the middle of nowhere with the purpose of starting some sort of fishing lodge. And that's kind of how things started with just this lodge. You can still see in the background, it is the original float home. They started off as just a place for fishermen in the area to sleep and dine. And then it moved quickly into heli fishing and heli ventures. So for 25 years, all we did was heli fishing and heli ventures. And then over the last 10 years, Fraser here and his wife Becky, and this is their daughter Fauna, have taken over the operation, and now we're focusing a lot more on the wilderness and wildlife adventure portion of Nimmo Bay, and we're still doing all the helicopter stuff, but doing a lot more without the helicopter as well. And just up here, this is Georgia, and she also works in reservations. That's their youngest daughter. So our location. Nimmo Bay is located in the southern part of the Great Bear Rainforest, just right here. This is the Great Bear Rainforest, goes all down the coastline. You can see Vancouver, Seattle. This is Vancouver Island, so I'm just going to zoom in a little closer. Vancouver Island here. So there's a number of ways to get to us. Typically, guests will fly into Vancouver, which is somewhere around here, and then they can take a provincial airline with Pacific Coastal and fly up to Port Hardy. It's a 1-hour flight from Vancouver. And then from Port Hardy, we bring all of our guests in by float plane or helicopter, depending on their package. So from Port Hardy Airport into Nimmo Bay, it's about a 20-minute float plane ride. And like I said, that portion is organized by us. Many guests also will drive from Victoria, or maybe they'll take the ferry over to Nanaimo and drive up this way as well. There is parking available in Port Hardy, and we're always available to help organize the different transfers. Lastly, the other really popular kind of spot would be Tofino. We have a lot of guests that will do Tofino or Clakewatt and come up to Nimmo Bay, and again, they can drive, or they can also charter directly from Tofino into Nimmo Bay. So as I mentioned, we are a fly-in resort. This is the whole resort. We're quite a small footprint, but I like to say we have a huge backyard. So you can kind of get a whole lay of the land right here. We have a total of 9 cabins, 6 that are along the waterfront, 3 that are along the stream side, which are tucked in the forest here. We have 4 helipads, and then basically this whole section down here is floating on top of the water. So we have the original lodge, we have a floating fire dock, our bakery, and staff housing. So we'll go into a little bit more about the accommodations and the amenities of the resort, and then I'll move into our experiences and adventures. So as I mentioned, we have the 6 cabins. These are intertidal cabins along the waterfront here. So the tide actually comes in and out underneath the cabins. You can see on the end here, these ones are a little bit different from the other 4. They were newly renovated 3 years ago, and we've actually just completed the renovation for the other 4. So now we have all 6 of the front cabins are newly renovated, so they're very beautiful. We'll get to see some interiors in a moment, and then you can kind of see the beginning of one of the cabins just peeking through the forest here. So this is the inside of the intertidal cabins. All of our cabins have 2 bedrooms, a shared bathroom, and as well as a lounging space and some outdoor space. So in this particular cabin, there's a king-size bed downstairs and a queen-size bed upstairs. Some of the cabins have 2 king-size beds, and most of the cabins can also fit a third bed which makes it much more comfortable for families. But we have these beautiful deep soaker bathtubs. You can sit in the bathtub and have a glass of wine and watch the sunset down. We also have a big stand-up shower in those rooms as well. Beautiful view, looking at the opening of the bay there. You can again sit and watch the sun setting down over there in the evening is quite amazing. Stargazing at night outside. We've done a couple of really special things for couples that are really interested in the stars, and set up some pretty neat things out there. You can even sometimes see bears crawling along the shoreline early in the morning as well. So these are our streamside cabins. You can see that they're a bit of a different theme. They do have a bigger lounging space, which is sometimes really nice for families. And they have a queen-size bed downstairs, queen-size bed upstairs. We do take requests for cabin types, but we can't guarantee availability. But we certainly do try to honor those requests. So then in the heart of the resort, we have this beautiful waterfall that streams down from the very top of the mountain. When Deborah and Craig started the resort 35 years ago, someone said, well, if you're going to the middle of nowhere with nothing, you need an energy source and a water source. And so really this waterfall is what brought them to that location. So it does give us all of our drinking water, as well as about 80% of our energy. So they had their two little toddlers, and they would hike up the waterfall, and they built a dam and put in a water wheel. And for years, that was the only source of energy that they had. Nowadays, we do have the generator when needed, but typically run solely off of natural green energy. And then, of course, at the bottom of this beautiful waterfall, we have our two-seater hot tubs, and there's a plunge pool down here. I've heard rumors that there's a bottle of tequila in behind the waterfall if you're brave enough to venture through the cold glacier waters to get there. There's a little prize at the end, but of course, you can hop back into the hot tubs quickly after to heat up. So here we have our floating fire dock and the lodge, and this is really kind of the hub of the entertainment where most guests do a lot of their dining. They start their day usually out here. You can sit at the end of the dock here, and you can look towards the back of the bay, towards the shoreline back here. There's a little beach, and oftentimes, again, you can see black bears rolling around and feeding along the shoreline there. Sitting around the fire late at night, I mean, it's pretty spectacular, and like I said, the stars are just unbelievable. There's no lights out there, so it can be the stars are just incredible to watch, and you can often see shooting stars and the Milky Way, and it's a pretty magical spot out there. This is a new addition this year as well. This outside kind of lounging area with the timber frame. We can move these couches out of the way and put in a dining table out here. So even if it's a little bit, if the weather's not kind of cooperating, we can still kind of dine outside if guests are really interested in that, and set up something really romantic and with quite a beautiful atmosphere. So again, this is in the evening, kind of unwinding around the fire, sharing stories and music, and lots of joke telling. It's a really great place for guests to bond with each other, as well as kind of making friends with some of the other guests that are staying at the lodge. The culinary aspect of Nimmo Bay is again, nothing but the best. We have 3 chefs that work at the resort at all times, and everything is made in-house, from the pastas to the breads to the ketchup, ice cream, and of course everything is locally sourced as well. So in the mornings when you wake up, you can be walking down the dock and you can smell the pastries coming out of the oven and smell the coffee being brewed. So it's it's quite all-encompassing. Dungeness crabs, we have obviously a lot of seafood because it comes right from our doorstep basically. And we do have a set menu. But there's a lot of flexibility with that. So before guests arrive, we always get their dietary restrictions and preferences, and then based on that, as well as our local seasonal ingredients, we create the menus on a daily basis. So we always try to get as much information from the guests prior to their arrival. Again, this is beautiful meat and cheese. This is all from Vancouver Island. Guests can be really as involved in the culinary aspect as they'd like. The chefs have an open door policy, so we can do cooking classes. We smoke our own salmon at the lodge, so guests can get involved and kind of learn about that process. We can go out and do some foraging along the coastline. So again, it's just kind of getting to know what guests are looking to experience at Nimmo Bay and customizing accordingly. This is a beautiful harvest table. It can sit everybody at the resort around it if we do have a bigger group. And again, we do try to dine outside when possible, when Mother Nature will let us. And it's quite a beautiful spot to unwind. We do encourage family-style dining, but of course we have guests that prefer to eat alone, and especially guests that are on their honeymoon or celebrating a special anniversary. We do try to do something a little bit more exclusive. So whether that's perhaps doing a dinner on a boat in the evening, or going to these beautiful remote locations on a rock, and watching the sunset, leaving them with some champagne. Oftentimes see whales going by here and dolphins, so it's quite a romantic little spot there. Lunch is in a different location every day, so some days it could be on top of a mountain, some days it's on a beach, another day it could be on the boat while you're watching the Steller sea lions. We always try to make it a highlight of the day, with beautiful hot soups and smoked salmon sandwiches. The list obviously is different every day, but that is always a delicious part of the day. So it's just unwinding by the fire at night. So then we have our activities. As I mentioned, we are an all-inclusive resort. So our base package is called our Wilderness and Wildlife Adventure Package, and I'll get into some of the details a little bit later on that. But basically, it includes all of our land and water-based activities. So everything from the resort, as well as the boating excursions are included. And at Nimmo Bay, we like to think of our itineraries as authentically organic. So there's not as much structure to them. There's no sign-up sheet. There's no, it's really about customizing the trip for the guests and getting to know them, and we get to know them through conversation. So once they arrive at Nimmo Bay, we sit down with them. Our guides, will have a conversation and get to know what they're looking to experience at Nimmo Bay, the level of adventure, if they're looking more to do wildlife or a mix of everything or more relaxation. And then based on that, they begin to put together an itinerary that, again, still offers a lot of flexibility. So typically on a typical day at Nimmo Bay, you wake up and there's an option to do maybe a yoga class or a small hike in the morning, have breakfast, and then typically you're away from the resort from about 10 a.m. till 4:30, between 4:30 and 5:30 p.m. you return. So you're usually off doing your adventures. But like I said, a lot of flexibility, so guests can always, kind of hang out more at the lodge if they prefer. So some of the things we can do right from the resort would be, like I mentioned, yoga. We do a lot of yoga at the resort. A lot of staff love to do that. There's a number of different trails that leave right from the resort. We had a guest yesterday that was asking, he's coming for 3 days and he wants to hike every day, and said, is that possible, and can we, are we going to be doing the same thing? But in fact, we actually have enough trails. I think you could probably come for a full week and do a different trail every day. So there's a number of different networks that we work with. And again, we match that to people's levels of adventure and mobility as well. So it can be really easy hike along the shoreline, or we can, hike up mountains and make it a little bit more intense and adventurous. This is rock rappelling. So we have one of our guides is an expert, an expert in tying knots. And so he set up a really cool rock rappelling wall at the back of the bay, which is really fun for kids, but as well for the parents. I think the kids love kind of seeing their parents do something a bit different and more adventurous, and it's kind of scary, and so kind of seeing their parents out of their element is a pretty neat little fun thing for them. We do offer massage services. That's not included in the packages. We can do couples massage. We have 2 beautiful massage rooms, again, really in quite unique places. So this one's right up against the forest. So all of the other windows in this massage room are basically you're right submersed into the Great Bear Rainforest. The second massage room is up above the waterfall, so you have the waterfall view, and you can hear the waterfall crashing next to you, which is quite spectacular. So we have our Wilderness and Wildlife Adventure Package, which is our land and water-based activities. So basically it includes everything with the exception of fishing, helicopter adventures, and like I mentioned, the massage services. So we have a number of different boats that we take out. This is our newest to the fleet. It's obviously an open Zodiac style, but apparently is the fastest boat north of Seattle. So what that really allows us to do is go further into the Great Bear Rainforest, go further up the streams. So it's great for doing things like grizzly bear viewing and just kind of going, going a little bit further than what we were able to do before. Again, this boat isn't for everybody. It's, it is opened, so it, you are open to the weather and going quite fast and things like that. But I know a lot of families and guys trips love to kind of whip around in this thing. We oftentimes will put kayaks and paddleboards on top of the boats and go out into these remote areas. So again, you can see this is a beautiful sandy beach. I know when people kind of think of BC, with the exception of kind of the Tofino area, you don't think of sandy beaches and warm water, but we actually do have quite a bit of it in the Broughtons, and so this is a great picnic spot. You can set up, and mom and dad can sit along the shore, enjoy their wine while the kids go out with the paddle boards or kayaks, or like I mentioned, the water's quite warm, so they swim all through here. And again, this is quite a popular spot to see dolphins, particularly. So you can see dolphins going by. Kids can do some snorkeling along the shoreline. So it's a really great spot for families, as well for couples that are just looking for a little bit of a romantic picnic spot. So this particular boat is called the Fawns. Most of our boats seat about between 6 to 12. So again, it's really about that customized, intimate experience for our guests. It is closed and has a bathroom on board, so it's quite comfortable, great for families, also great for elderly people as well. And it is a landing craft, so it's really easy for people to get on and off the boat when we pull up to the shoreline like this. Again, so this is paddleboarding, so going to these beautiful places that are, they're usually about, maximum, I'd say about 30-minute boat ride away. And having these quite amazing experiences where you get pretty close and personal with Mother Nature, as well as the wildlife that's in our own backyard. So this is the old growth forests. Also grizzly bear territory, so we can go kind of in the backcountry and explore the old growth. These trees are, like thousands of years old, and the amounts of different shades of green back there is just incredible. It's really a magical experience, and it's kind of hard to describe the feelings when you're back there, because it's just, it really is magical. And sometimes you might come across a bear, but of course our guides are all prepared and can help facilitate those situations. So the wildlife viewing at Nimmo Bay is quite abundant. We're very lucky to be located in where we are, and there's no one else in our area exploring the wildlife. And there's a lot of diversity. So these are the Pacific white-sided dolphins, and we can see from maybe a couple of hundred up to a couple of thousands of them. They're my personal favorite. In this particular shot, we're leaning over the this is the Fawns, the landing craft I was just showing you, and the dolphins are coming right up underneath, and sometimes even just spraying us right in the face, just being kind of cheeky and having fun. But they're very interactive. They'll come and surround the boat and play in the wake, and they do flips and turns, and they're so playful. So they're really, I mean, for me personally, they're my favorite, because they're so interactive, and they're always so entertaining, and you could just kind of stay and watch them for days, and they just follow. They'll just keep going with the boat and follow in the wake. Again, we can put the paddle boards out when we do go into these areas, and if we're lucky enough, the dolphins will come and again play with you. Yeah, so it's making that experience again a little bit more intimate, getting a little bit closer to Mother Nature. This is Sea Lion Rock. For some reason, they all gravitate on this rock. They love this rock, so it's a really easy kind of an easy one to hit home, because wildlife isn't always guaranteed. Like I mentioned, we are lucky enough to see it every single day that we're out there, but there's this is always kind of an easy one to get to if we are struggling and trying to find the wildlife. This is another one of our boats back here. This is the dance, and again, it's covered, so it can be quite comfortable for guests that are riding along. There's Stellar sea lions a little bit more up close. They're the biggest sea lions in the world, and they're the most obnoxious animals I think I've ever seen. They're very loud. They're pretty aggressive towards one another, and they're hilarious to watch. So like the kids particularly love watching the sea lions just because they're different from most other animals, and can be quite entertaining. And of course we have our orca whales. We also have humpback whales. You can see a little baby orca there. It's pretty sweet. These are kind of the showstoppers, the orca whale. That's what everyone kind of wants to come up and see. And again, like I said, we're fortunate enough that they are in our area, and we see them, pretty much every day. There is seasonality to all of the wildlife at Nimmo Bay, so if you do have guests that are looking, particularly for the whales or particularly for the bears, then you can let us know, and we'll certainly let you know the best times to come see those animals. That's the humpback whale. Every humpback whale can be identified. So on the back of their tail, there's a print, and so a really neat thing that we can again do with kids is we'll look at the print of the tail, and then we'll look up the humpback in our identifier book, and then you can kind of read about the humpback, read about its life. This is Slappy. He was born in Hawaii. He's 6 years old. And you can kind of find some unique facts. So that's a really cool thing to do with kids. They really love learning about them. Humpback whales are like the size of school buses. They're humongous whales, and they'll get up, and to see a humpback breach is pretty incredible, and you can just kind of feel the impact of that. So we have grizzly bears and black bears in our neck of the woods. We don't have the spirit bears. They're rare to see on the best of times, but even rarer to see in the southern part of the Great Bear Rainforest. Basically, with our bear viewing, we can, again, we can focus any one activity on a full trip. So, 3 or 4 days I'm focused on bear viewing or whale watching or hiking, or we can, really mix it up and do something different every day. With the bear viewing, we do a couple of different ways. So we can, for people that are a little bit more adventurous and mobile, we can hike up the rivers and watch them while they feed on the salmon along the rivers. And for people that have kids and maybe aren't so mobile, we can go out on the boat, and we'll oftentimes just see them feeding along the boat, and we can watch them kind of from a little bit more of a distance. This is the black bears along the shoreline. This is a little teddy bear here. This particular picture was taken in May. So I know a lot of people don't really think of May as a great bear viewing month, but it is the time of year that you do see these little guys, this tiny, this small, and May is actually quite a great time of year to do a little bit of bear viewing when the bears are along the shoreline. As you go later in the season, like August, September, October is actually really great for grizzly bear viewing if you want to see them more along the river and feeding on the salmon. So a couple of other activities besides the wildlife and besides the more kind of kayaking, hiking aspect to the wilderness and wildlife adventures is our cultural experience. So we do a couple of other things with the cultural experiences. This particular photo, we had dancers come to Nimmo Bay, and our guests were lucky enough to kind of witness their dance and their masks and their drumming, which is a big part of their culture. We can do other things in which we go into remote communities that are in the area and visit with elders, and again, learn more about the culture that way. We can visit some of the artists, some of the local sculptors in the area, and mask makers. There's also a beautiful museum that's close to Nimmo Bay that we can go and see as well. So again, it's all customized and based on what the guests want to experience and how much they want to spend learning about the culture. There's hints of First Nations culture throughout all of our trips, if guests want it or not. I mean, there's tons of art through Nimmo Bay, and we're very close with that community. We also offer survival experiences. So we work with a lady named Nikki who basically sold everything that she owned and lived off the land with her dog for about 18 months. Just just her and her dog, and a couple of sticks. And so her stories are quite spectacular. She has stories about cougars, stories with wolves, stories about bears, and she loves to share. So this particular picture, we had met with her, and she went and foraged some food from the shoreline. So you can see some seaweed. There's some sea asparagus there and mint. And then she kind of gathered some sticks and did the whole 2 sticks rubbing together and started a fire. And again, she kind of shared her stories around the fire. So again, there's different elements that we can do with her as well. That is something that we do need to book through her. So if you do have guests that are interested, please give us the heads up. Finally, this is a free diving shot. So this is something that we've just started doing the last couple of years. And it's definitely for a very niche market, but if you do have guests that are interested in free diving, it is something that we offer. We have some of the best cold water diving in the world around Nimmo Bay. We can also organize scuba diving as well, but guests do have to have experience in diving before they come. And again, it has to be something that we organize prior to their arrival, so we do need to know beforehand that that's something they're interested in doing, so we can ensure we have all of the gear and proper guides and boats available for the guests. These are box crab here. We can also get sea urchins and do some pretty cool things with that. Excuse me. So that's most of our wilderness and wildlife adventure package. I know there's a lot of different options within that. But again, it can be as kind of adventurous and active, and there can be a lot of diversity within their activities, or it can be very simple, where guests kind of hang out more around the resort, maybe do some hiking or kayaking, or just relaxing and enjoying the hot tubs and massage. And it's just about getting to know the guests for us and being able to create something that's really, really special. We only take 18 guests. We have about 24 staff. So, so the level of service to us is really what separates us from some of the other resorts in the area, and creating those personalized experiences. So we'll move into HeliVenture packages. And the most common thing that people do when they come to Nimmo Bay is they'll book the Wilderness and Wildlife Adventure package, and then they'll add on a day or 2 with the helicopter. We have access to 50,000 square miles of wilderness by helicopter. So there's, again, a lot of diversity in terms of what we can see and do with that. And you can kind of never get enough of the helicopter. It's a pretty cool experience. The helicopter packages are all exclusive, so it would just be the group in the helicopter. The helicopter stays with the groups the entire day. So again, allows for that flexibility in terms of the activities that they do throughout the day. So from mountaintops to these huge plummeting waterfalls to glacier lakes, there's quite an array of scenery. And then within that, there's a lot of different activities. So we can do some heli hiking, going up to the glaciers. I mean, you're going to places that 0.3% of the population get to go and see and experience, and it's all untouched, pristine wilderness. So to get to see Mother Nature in that raw form is pretty rare these days. And these pictures are pretty great, but it doesn't even do it justice. So we spend a lot of time on the glaciers. I mean, you can't really go wrong. A lot of lunches on the glaciers. These paddle boards are inflatable, so we can bring them onto the helicopter and go into remote rivers and lakes. We can go up to the glacier lakes. This picture is quite incredible. There's a huge glacier here, and you can go along. Hopefully you don't fall in. We haven't had anyone do that yet, but the paddle boards are quite sturdy. But not every day that you can go up to a glacier and paddle along a glacier lake. This is another really popular spot with the helicopter. So you can actually land. I mean, the great thing about helicopters is you don't need a lot of space to land the helicopter. So you can actually land the helicopter on this little spit here. And set up a little picnic, and then the guests can go out and paddleboard on the lake. They can also hike along the shoreline, and there's lots of little things to find in and around there. So this is a great spot for families and couples as well. We can also we also have access to this is just a remote lake in the middle of the mountain, but we also have access to hot springs. We can go to the west coast of Vancouver Island and go to beautiful sandy beaches. And we can go into kind of old ghost towns that are a little bit more remote as well. Lunch on a glacier, here we go. As I mentioned, I mean, this is something that you don't get to do every day, and it's kind of always, you know, the icing on the cake for a lot of guests when they do get to go up and experience that. So, you know, the morning, this couple could have been fishing in the morning. They're now on a glacier for lunch, and then spend the afternoon heli hiking or something along those lines. Like I said, a lot of flexibility and all customized to what the guests want to experience. This is an evening. Well, oftentimes, if guests are celebrating something special and the weather's working and kind of this isn't anything that can be pre-booked or pre-planned, but if everything kind of works out, then we'll do something really special right before the sun goes down on top of a mountain. So we'll surprise our guests with maybe a birthday cake or a bottle of champagne, and then they can kind of sit out there, watch the sunset go down literally on top of the world. And, you know, we have guests that come down after experience like that, and they're just crying in kind of disbelief and just blown away by the scenery, and yeah, it's quite a spectacular part of the world. Here we go in the evening, watching the sunset go down, and then quickly jump back on the helicopter and get down back to the resort before it does get dark. Then we have our heli fishing. I won't go too deep into the heli fishing part of things. Most of our UK markets want to try fishing, but it's not a huge pull for them. We do full heli fishing packages if that is of interest, and basically we're the pioneers of heli fishing on the West Coast. So we've been doing it for, like I said, over 35 years, and we have access to about 50 remote rivers, and they're all classified rivers. Everything is catch and release, but it does offer some of the very best salmon fishing in the world. So again, it's all customized to the guest's level of experience. So whether that's, you know, fly fishing and you know, some people that are really really into fly fishing for steelhead or fly fishing for salmon. We also have guests that have never picked up a fly rod or a spin rod, and again, our guides just work with them accordingly. So that's kind of Nimmo Bay, all in a quick, hopefully quick little webinar here. I hope you guys got a lot of information. This is just a quick summary. So Nimmo Bay is an intimate, family-owned and operated wilderness resort located in the Great Bear Rainforest in British Columbia. We are all-inclusive, and we focus primarily on customized and personalized experiences. We do things exclusive whenever possible, but at times we do have couples that we'll put together if things are going well and they're interested in the similar activities. What separates us from other resorts is that we really do spend the time to get to know our guests and create something special just for them. And we welcome all families, couples, small groups. There's no age restrictions because we are customized. Like I mentioned, we can just cater to you know, any age or any mobility issues. And that concludes my presentation. So there's my email there, jenny@nimmobay.com. Whenever you do have any inquiries, you will most likely be dealing with myself or my cousin Georgia, who I introduced at the beginning of the presentation. And we work pretty regularly, so we're available to you at any time. So please feel free to reach out, even if you do go through you know, a receptive tour operator. We're always open to keeping communication open with the agent directly to answer any questions and give you any information that you may need. I hope you all have a great day, and thank you so much again for learning more about Nimmo Bay.